My mum died when I was young. She died of a heart attack, so it was like she was there 1 minute and gone the next. So it took me many years to accept that. I went to stay with my grandparents, my nana and granddad. It was good there, we got holidays. Round about 12, 13, I stopped going to school and wasn't listening. Like my nana said, go to school or do this, and I'd be like, you're nae my mum. She didn't have an answer to that, so she let me off with quite a lot. I ended up stealing cars, breaking into places, so I was put into a children's home at the age of 13. I could just run amok in there as well. I didn't listen to anybody, I didn't stick by the rules, never really got punished for it. I didn't want to go to school, so I used to lie in my bed. I met a guy in there. I was going with him for about a year. He ended up stabbing me several times. I was 15. Once I'd come out of hospital, that's when the drugs started. I was a smoker, cigarettes and maybe a bottle of cider between 6s at the weekends, but drugs weren't really an issue. After I got out of hospital, I met up with friends that I hadn't seen for a while, and they were on drugs, and it just sort of happened really quickly. The first time I ever tried heroin, I used a needle, so right into using needles as well. I didn't understand. I was really naive to it until people started ODing right in front of me, and I thought, well, hold on a minute, this is quite dangerous. I started offending to feed the drugs, like shoplifting or driving without a licence or breaking into a house, theft. It got really bad because it wasn't just heroin, it was smoking crack cocaine as well. And that's when I started being on remand basically, when I was 16. The first time I went in on remand, it was an older woman. She was sitting smoking drugs. So I just thought, this is great, coming to prison and getting drugs for nothing. I was young, 16. I got community service for fines, got a lot of fines. I would go for a few probation appointments, miss 6, go for a few. I knew how to work the system. I could go in and tell the reason for me not being there was because someone was ill in the family, and they believed that back then. When I started to crack on top of the heroin, I'd got a flat of my own, and it was in a lovely area. Then one of my friends, she started smoking it before me, and she used the Jamaican guys. I got introduced to him, and he ended up coming up and staying in the house, and we ended up in a relationship. He was feeding me drugs, so he'd fund the crack, but he wouldn't give me heroin. I'd have to go out stealing and hiding it from him. That ended when he got 5 years for selling drugs. My first prison sentence was because I breached my probation. It was an 18-month order for driving. I went to a few appointments and then it was revoked. Then I got a sentence. It was revoked for not turning up to the appointments. I was a drug user. If I didn't have anything to sort me out that day, I couldn't go to that appointment. So they really should have got me on a methadone script. I got 5 months prison for it. I was 20, so I went to the YOs. The first time I went, I was a bit nervous because I'd heard lots of stories about the YOs. But once I got past the scared and shocked part, it was okay. I liked the people and I got on with them. I'd come out of prison and I'd met a guy in a bar and I'd been seeing him probably about 6 to 8 months. That's when I fell pregnant. I didn't want to have the baby, but between my family and his family, it wasn't something that was up for discussion. That's the main reason that I had him. I was still on methadone when I fell pregnant. The birth of my son, just the whole experience of giving birth was amazing. I loved it. Once it's happened and you're holding him, it's amazing seeing him for the first time. Me and his dad stayed together for just over a year, but he was too controlling and didn't want my own family in the house. So I got my locks changed. things sort of went downhill again. I ended up relapsing back on drugs when Mark was about 3. I was shoplifting and doing things to get by and get extra money. I sold my body for money to get drugs, put myself in really bad situations. It was the courts that ordered me to start methadone. There was loads of support there. You'd done a lot of groups and one-to-ones, and just knowing that you were getting breathalyzed, even with drink at the time, or you were getting a urine test to see if you were clean, it was just something that I thought, right, I have to do this. And there was enough help there. Since then, I was doing not too bad. When my nan went into hospital with pneumonia, and she'd asked me to go down to my cousin's to let him know. And he's got mental health problems. And when I went down, there was him and this other guy in the house. He totally turned on me and helped the guy rape me, basically. My cousin, he got sectioned to a mental hospital. It was DNA that got the rapist, and they caught him at Gatwick Airport trying to leave the country. He got 12 years. My anxiety started from the rape. I didn't have a clue where this guy was. The reason why I think I started drinking was because I didn't want to go back into drugs, because I know what it does to you. I can't put my body through it again. Even when I came off methadone myself, that was a really big struggle for me. I struggled big time, but I was determined. And I thought, you can go into a shop and buy drink, it's no bad. I'll just use the drink instead of the drugs. I didn't realise you could get addicted to it. I had it for well over a year from my family that had a drink problem, because I was never that drunk, and I used to drink out of Coca-Cola bottles, so they thought it was juice. Until my brother noticed how many bottles were in the bin. I was like, I've not got a problem. I was happy, Ken. Then I started dabbling in crack again. And man, he just took Mark, and I wasn't getting him back until I'd wisened up. He's still with her now. Even when Mark was staying at Manty's, I was staying out of the jail. I would take him to the riverside or to the carnivals, go to the park, but the drink was under the buggy. It takes a few months for it to get to a bad situation that I'm shoplifting and that. I'm controlling it to start with, like budgeting and that with money. But once you get more addicted to the drink, that goes out the window, and you're out shoplifting or stealing to get money. That's why you're out for so long, because it takes a few months to get to the stage that you're just going to pick it up off the shelf and just walk out without putting it in a bag. Since then, my crimes been mostly police assaults and breach of the peace, because when I drink, I get angry. My offending's gotten worse. The drink's actually made it worse because it's assaults. One guy I assaulted was Nigerian, so I've got some racial charges as well. Where I've been shoplifting for the drink, the security guard happens to be black. I've called him everything, but that's one thing I'm not, because my daughter's mixed race, so I'm not a racist. I got out in January. I was doing brilliant. I was staying off the drink. I was picking Mark up from school. And knowing that I had to be there for Mark was a big motivation. And I knew I couldn't go up to the house drunk or pick him up from school drunk. I managed my anxiety because of my cousin. She was with me quite a lot of the time. She's a little boy too, so I used to focus on him or carry him around to try and forget what was ruined about me. So long as I was speaking to someone in that, didn't get me wrong, on a bus I was sitting at the back and listening to everything, but I managed it. My partner got out of jail in February and he started drinking straight away, and I didn't start drinking straight away. I was going through quite a lot in the last 3 weeks before I came back to prison, because he started the domestic abuse. He was arrested for it, but he was let out, so I was drinking a lot more just to cope with that. I got out in January, my partner got out in February, and from the March we were both just drinking. Now we're both back at it again. I've let Mark down big time. When I was out there, I had a support worker. She got me to start seeing a rape counsellor and just my local GP, and I was waiting for an appointment with a psychiatrist. At the time I wait for an appointment, I end up hitting the drink pretty hard because I can't cope. Just to cope with the outside world, I can't do things unless I'm drunk or whatever. To do normal things. Even going to the supermarket to shop and that, I couldn't even contemplate. I wouldn't even get out my front door. My hands get all sweaty, I panic, my heart's racing, I'm sweating. My cousin, he'd been released into the community again. Social work was trying to get a meeting set up with me and my social worker and the people that were helping him. Just to find out where he was living and things like that, because I was scared. I know it's in the city centre somewhere, so most of my doctors are in the city centre, the court, the social work. So that was a problem for me. I stopped going to appointments. If I see him, I didn't care what I'm going to do. I'm going to put my hands around his throat and kill him, or if I'm going to break down or stand still and no move. I hate going on the bus by myself, but if I've got a drink in me, I'll easily leave the house because I've got more confidence. I'm not scared of nothing. I'm a totally different person. So I'm using alcohol to go and do things, and when I turn up to the appointments drunk, the social worker's telling me to leave, and the housing, and everything falls to pieces. Drinking's what's brought me back to prison again. Headbutting the police, spitting at them, resisting arrest, breach of the peace and shoplifting. I went shoplifting and got caught, started trying to run away from him. Then because he grabbed me, I started fighting with him, and that's why all the charges. I was drunk at the time, because when I'm drunk, I'm a totally different person. If someone annoys me, I'm quite violent with drinking me. I'm fully committed. I've been in 10 weeks. I'm trying to get my lawyer to get me a deal. If I plead guilty to all the charges, they drop it to a summary. But the Crown Council said no. They rejected it. So I'm pleading to it anyway. I'm going to have to, because if I take it to trial, I'll get longer because it was all on CCTV. I didn't really want the judge to look at it because I was going mental. I can't really remember much because I was that drunk, but just what my lawyer's telling me and my partner, he was standing watching it. The sentence will probably be 3 years. It does scare me. But then maybe you've got all these little sentences, because say like you get 20 months, it gets half to 10, and then by the time you've done your remand and that, you're on the waiting list to see so many people. Mental health, psychiatrists, all these people. You're walking out the gates with your head up your arse, still with all your problems. So maybe if I get a bigger sentence, it'll be longer to work for me. Right now I'm still anxious quite a lot. If there's a big group of people at tea time when the door's open and we're getting fed, all these people are coming out and I freak right out. Just didn't like it at all. But I've got to try and cope with it and deal with it. I just get the meal, just go right back into my cell, close the door until it quietens down, and I'll go out and I'll go and get my meal in that. My sentence last year was for driving, and shoplifting for drink, and a police assault, and resisting arrest. So because I've previous for it, that's why they would put it on indictment. The last time, the judge was like, I'm not releasing you into the community, I don't think you'll seek the help you require, so it's a custodial sentence. That sentence, I didn't really get any help. I didn't see a psychiatrist. That was after my rapist had been found guilty and he got his 12 years. I didn't get any help. There's no enough help for females. They've got nothing here for us. We're all on waiting lists. And if you were to work here for a day and you look at some of the people who've got really bad mental health problems and are struggling to cope, there's 2 members of staff on each level and they can't even be bothered to speak to them half the time. But if the prison had the facilities, the jail would probably help me. My son's dad still comes and sees me and sends money and that. He sees him and he pays for quite a lot of his after school activities and that, so yeah, if it wasn't for him, he wouldn't do half the stuff. But he's still away from his mum and dad, and his mum and dad aren't together. When I see him, I feel like I'm more like a big sister to him. I can't discipline him, and I can't say no to him if he's misbehaving. I didn't like giving him into trouble in that, because it's my auntie that's looking after him just now. It's my auntie that takes him to school, it's my auntie that makes sure there's food on the table, so I feel like I've got no right to do all of that with him. So it's a funny relationship we have, me and Mark. And he knows that he can misbehave. Or like certain things on Facebook, he'll ask my auntie and she'll be like, no, you're not getting it, you're too young. And he'll come to me and I'll let him download it on my phone and things. I need to do a parenting class or something. He asks what kind of people is in, and he's like, what kind of people is there? Is there girls? Is there kids? I didn't want to scare him. Tell him there's bad people. Because then he'll know want to come. Anyway, I've had enough. I managed to stay off the drink for a few months when my partner wasn't around. I need to think about the relationship with me and him. Even though I still have feelings for him, maybe it's no good in other ways. I'll see if he's made any changes in prison. Every Thursday I'm doing a listening group that started here. It's about depression in relationships. My 3 goals are a better relationship with Mark, look at my relationship with my partner, and the drink. But I need to make sure that he's going to try and change and try and help himself. I didn't want to live here anymore. I just think too much has happened here and too many bad memories. I know too many people. The drink scene, the drug scene. I just hope I'll be in a new house, new city with my daughter. It'll just be temporary accommodation I'll need to go for when I get out, so I'll see what happens. My auntie spoke about moving away too. She's had enough as well. I wouldn't go into a hostel. My mental health wouldn't be able to take that, I don't think. People are still drinking in there and using drugs. It's just going to set me up to fail if I go into somewhere like that. Every sentence I get at the end of it, nothing's changed. I still work out a drinker, go back on drugs, I still go out and commit crime. Now I'm older, I'm a lot more calmer. It doesn't bother me being in prison. Sometimes when the doors get opened, I just get up and shut the door over, so that's how much I'm used to it. Because it's that easy, the jail. It's that easy now. When I got the sentence after the rape had happened, and they said, "We don't think you'd seek help," I felt, you're punishing me for when I'm going through something bad like this. And it got to me, because I'm like, he's sitting in the jail, and I'm doing the same. I've lost a lot of family events, funerals, and family have died, and because they're no next of kin or whatever, I can't get out to go to the funeral. I didn't get to go out to go to weddings or birthday parties, things like that. That's when you look at photos when you do get out. You're the only one knowing it. I'm the only one knowing it.